Hello, my name is Bill. In this video I'll continue with my shelf tour. So first is some Michael Moorcock, the Swords Trilogy. So complete in one volume, it says. King of the Swords, the Queen of the Swords, and the Knight of the Swords. But this is part of the Charon series, which has 6 books. So this one is copyright 1971. So the Sword and the Stallion is book 6 in the Charon series. So I read this one last year for February fantasy stories. But I should have started with book 1 instead of book 6. So it was an interesting read, but I would prefer to read science fiction instead of fantasy. Here inside it says Volume the 3rd of Chronicle of Prince Charon in the silver hand. But on the front it says the 6th book of Charon. So this is 1974. And the cover is illustrated by Melvin. And this one I didn't see any artist name. The Rituals of Infinity. This is 1965. I don't see an artist name. The final program. The first novel of the Jerry Cornelius Quartet. (1965 and 1966). Cover illustration by Bill Sanderson. Eternal Champion. Granada Science Fantasy, it says. Cover illustration Bob Haberfield. And this book is copyright 1970. The Steel Tsar. Third volume in the Oswald Bastable trilogy. So since I don't have Volume 1 and 2. I'll have to start in the middle of the series. (1981). Cover illustration by Melvin. City of the Beast, or Warrior of Mars. Originally published under the pen name of Edward P. Bradbury. (1965). Cover art Richard Hiscox. The English Assassin. So most of these Michael Moorcock books I got as used books a long time ago. So this one is 1972. Cover illustration by Bill Sanderson. The Warlord of the Air. No page that tells me when it was published. Editor's note is from 1971. Cover art Davis Meltzer. No barcode on the back, so it was printed a while back. So that was all the Michael Moorcock. Chaos by Michael Pye. The explosive super thriller of financial corruption, murder, and horrifying revenge. Front cover illustration by Mike Timmons. (1991). I think I bought that one just because of the title, and then didn't get around to reading it. The Right Stuff by Tom Wolfe. Over 1 million copies in print. (1979). Cover art 1983 by Lad Company. So that's probably scenes from the movie version. Natural State and Other Stories by Damon Knight. Originally published by Victor Gollancz Limited as 3 novels. So, looks like 1958. Or this collection first published in Great Britain 1967. This edition 1975 by Pan Books. I don't see an artist name. Now Wait for Last Year by Philip K. Dick. It was maybe a year or two ago I read this book. 1966. Cover art Michael Mariano. So, like all Philip K. Dick books, this one was sort of confusing. What's going on? Now I don't remember anything about the story. When Harlie Was One, released 2. David Gerrold. So originally published in 1972, the revised Bantam edition 1988. So he revised it because his computer ideas in 1972 were a little bit obsolete in 1988. I think he probably has to redo it again because his ideas from 1988 are a little out of date. So I've read this twice, but all I remember is it's an artificial intelligence program that becomes conscious, and then it'll do everything possible to keep from being turned off. And then there's 4 Lords of the Diamond by Jack L. Chalker. So these books are in videos last year when I reread them. Lilith, a Snake in the Grass. 1981. So cover art by David B. Mattingly. So David B. Mattingly does covers for all 4 books. Cerberus, a wolf in the fold. Charon, dragon at the gate. Medusa, a tiger by the tail. So his agent, his mind is copied into 4 separate bodies. So the 4 separate bodies, one goes to each of the 4 worlds. And his instructions are to find out as much as possible about the aliens that are assisting the 4 lords, and to execute the Lord and take over his job. And then the original version of him is out in space, so basically in an orbit around the sun, same sun as the 4 worlds. And when the agents report in, their mind is integrated into his. So he has the experience of all 4 copies of himself. And he has to make a report to tell the government what they should do about the 4 lords, or about the 4 worlds. Just trying to look up the name of the organization here that I just said the government, but sort of like a galactic government. So then there's the identity matrix. So I was planning on reading this one after I finished those other 4, but then I never got to it yet. So I still haven't read it. (1982). No cover artist. Judas Mandala by Damon Broderick. So he's an Australian writer. (1982). and Flight of the Dragonfly. So I read this one soon after I got it, but that was a long time ago. (1984). Cover Bob Eglinton. So the book by Robert L. Forward that most people read is Dragon's Egg. And I don't think I've read that one. The Elfstones of Shanhara. Terry Brooks. So I always thought I had the first two books in this series, but in recent years all I could find in my collection is one. So it's illustrated by Darrell K. Sweet. So the book's 1982. The cover is also Darrell K. Sweet. So I think maybe this is book 2 in the series. And the one I read was The Sword of Shanhara. Sometimes when books get overly damaged for some strange reason, they get thrown away. So that's possibly what happened to the other one. So the playlist today is Exospheres. Explore the inner worlds floating in the imagination of experimental ambient music producers. So Spotify just changed their user interface, which sort of messes up the way I was randomly choosing my playlist for each day. So what I would do each morning is go to search, made for you, then look at these artist mixes to see if there was any new ones to add to my folder of ones to listen to. So I'll use this as an example. Then I would add it to my library, and then go back here and add the new one to the folder, my mix folder. And then I would click mix, and it would display all the playlist over here. So it would display them 7 in a row. So I had 53 rows. So 366 playlists to pick from. So that's lots of counting if I selected one out of 366. So what I would do is generate a random number to select a row, and then a second number to select which one from the row. So 1 through 7. So now you can only look at them in the sidebar, but you can expand the sidebar out. But then it's only 5 per row, so I think I ended up with 75 rows. So that can be a lot of counting if the random number generator chooses one far down the list. So maybe I won't bother doing that anymore. Or maybe I'll just start with the ones that's been on the list the longest and just select from the last 10 rows. So then I just have to count from the bottom, 1 up to a maximum of 10, and then count over 1 to maximum of 5. So depending on what I decide to do, I may not have my daily playlist at the end of every video like I have been doing. So that's all for this video. See you in the next one.